Thank you, everybody. This is, I think, the third time I've done this, and I'm excited to present today and do my 10-minute presentation. What I want to do is I want to talk about what I do for a living as a mortgage consultant, loan officer. There's a lot of people get a misconception, or maybe they don't understand the things that I do as a personal banker, broker, and correspondent lender. What that means is that as a loan officer, I take in clients and I work with them, and I work with multiple different banks. So I work with Chase Bank, I work with Wells Fargo, I work with Bank of America. I take these clients and I can put them into programs with these different banks and match them up. As far as working with them and working with the whole aspect of the loan process, I work with the appraiser, I work with the title company, I'll work with your CPA, your attorney, I have to work with your credit, so sometimes I have to do credit fixes. I really touch everything, and in a lot of cases people call a loan officer like myself a coach. And I put Vince Lombardi here because I think there are good coaches out there, and I think there are coaches that are not very good, and he was the best. Lombardi was an awesome coach. He did, although I'm not a Packers fan, he won five championships. He has a trophy named after him. As a coach myself and working with clients, I think that it's something that I do is managing the company or managing the loan process and helping my clients and making sure that we're successful. And making sure that they're successful in getting into their loan and making it as easy as possible. And if not easy, at least making sure they go down the right path. And I'm going to compare the analogy today to sports and the sport of football of what I do. Okay, so I consider when I get a client, I have to pre-qualify them, or I call that the preseason. It's very important when I take in these clients, there is a difference between each client, and everyone fits a different mold. But not everybody's going to qualify. It's something that I have to take them, bring them in, and we pull their credit. We look at their credit history. We look at their income and look at their income history and the projected income. We're also going to look at the assets that they have. Much like teams will to try out players, we have certain clients and we work with them and we make sure that they're qualified. If they're not qualified, one important part is that unlike a football team where they cut the player and let them go, I work with them long term. I get a lot of referrals in here, and sometimes people just are not ready to go, but I will put them in a plan and I work with them, so whether it's 3 months, 6 months, or sometimes it's a year or two down the road, I'm able to work with them and help them get into a house. So that is a preseason. Now, a lot of times people think once they're pre-qualified and we're ready to go on and they can put an offer on a house, that it's game time and they're all excited and that's all they really need to do. But really, that's just the start of the process. Once they've got that accepted offer, that's when I have to jump in and even do more action on this. I have to make sure that I run the right place. There are different types of loans, and putting the client into the right type of loan is very important. With FHA, VA, conventional, and USDA, there's also home path, Canadian financing, and asset-based programs. So there's a lot of different programs, and it's very important that I don't put a client that maybe has 20% down into an FHA loan when they could do a conventional loan and they could get a much better interest rate. So that's very important. Also, it's very important to know your defenses. And this comes into play when I take clients, we pick the right kind of loan for them, but there's a difference between different banks. Like if I'm going to go to Chase Bank's a little bit more strict on their guidelines, but they have great rates. So if I have an A plus or just a great client, I'll take them to Chase and I'll give them a great rate. They're going to be a little bit more strict. But if I have a client that maybe their credit's not perfect, maybe they have some issues, a lot of times I'll take them to like a Wells Fargo because they're not quite as strict. The rates may not be as good there, but we're able to manipulate them and get them into different programs. So it's very important that as a loan officer that I know which things that I'm going to have to fight against. And the reason being is that a lot of times when you go into the loan process, if you go into just like a Wells Fargo, they're going to take you through their program. If it doesn't fit their guidelines, then that person gets denied, and I've seen that quite a bit. But with me, you actually have the option that I can know beforehand that, hey, Wells Fargo is going to allow us to do this, where another bank like Bank of America may say, no, we can't do this program. Then there's halftime. While the fans are out there looking and enjoying the band and other aspects of the game, I'm always on my toes to watch and be careful that the problems don't arise. Sometimes we have to make an adjustment. I had a client that we were putting them into what's called a home path mortgage, and we submitted the loan. It met all the guidelines with Wells Fargo, and we were taking it to them, and the underwriter came back and said, hey, these people are doing a buy and bill. And I'd never run into that before. They meet the guidelines completely fine. And what I had to do is I had to quickly take the loan and switch it over to another bank, and I took it to GMAC, and they were completely fine with that. And I was able to manipulate that and make that adjustment, and we still were able to close the loan on time. So that's one big thing that I do. And then there's the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, and I consider these referees, I call these the underwriters, because they can pull out some pretty crazy conditions, and they can put your loan into a hurt. I've had a couple scenarios. I had some clients that I'm working with right now that they were originally going through Wells Fargo. They were told that they were approved. They got a house. They went through the process and went down to the very end, and the underwriter saw that they had a second mortgage that they had a short sale with, and it was originally with Wells Fargo. They threw the flag and they said they wouldn't do the loan. So they had to start the process all over. They came to me, and I have the opportunity that I'm taking them through, and we're actually going to close here in the next week, because I knew that, hey, if you had a loan with Wells Fargo originally short sold, they don't allow it, so I have to put it through another avenue. So those are one of the things that I look for in these. I call these the underwriters, the holding penalties, false starts, and that you just really have to be careful with them. Another scenario that I had with some clients just recently is that I pre-approved them, and their credit score was at a 641, and they barely qualified. You need a 640 to qualify for the program. They put an offer on a house. It took 3 months before the offer got accepted. Well, once it got accepted, we had to update their credit report, and their credit score had dropped 5 points, and now they didn't qualify for the program. Now, knowing that I run into problems like this all the time, what I did with the client, they have a family member that we were able to add them as an authorized user on their credit cards. And we did that, and then we waited 2 weeks before those showed up in the credit report, and the credit scores jumped 20 points, and we were good to go. And so that's something that I do as a loan officer. I really watch those things. I always take care of my clients, and I'm prepared to fight any of those types of challenges. Now, recruiting. Football teams recruit, and as a loan officer, you're actually all my recruiters. And this isn't actually the type of recruiting that I want you to do. There is a specific type of recruiting. That's something that I mentioned before, which was great, Ron, that you mentioned that we were looking for those ways how we can sell my business. There are ways that you can sell my business and what I'm looking for. Let me just bring these up. I'm going to call these keywords. When you're talking to friends, to family members, and they mention things like, hey, I'd like to buy a house down the road, and I just don't think I'm ready, but I really want to buy something and take advantage of the market. That's a key word. That's a key phrase that you need to look for. Hey, that's something that I can send you to Joe. Even if you're not ready yet, just say, hey, down the road I want to do this, then refer my name out. Or if they say, hey, I'm upside down on my house, I want to refinance, I just don't know what to do, that's a great way to jump in and say, hey, Joe Hansen's the person for you. Types of loans I'm looking for, the HARP 2.0 program, which I've mentioned multiple times. That's a great loan right now to take advantage of the refinance if you're upside down and you have a Fannie Mae loan. FHA refinances, there's also a program coming out June 11th that's going to help people who bought a home before 2009 of June. Those are great ways to get me in. Also, power partners, realtors. If you know a realtor, if they're a friend, family member, or someone that you bump into, I'm always more than happy to get to know more Steve Padillas, because he's a great agent, and that's the type of agents I love to work with, people who are actually in the business and working it full time. And I'm going to end with a quote. It says, the achievement of organization are the results of combined effort of each individual. People who work together will win, whether it be against complex football defenses or the problems of modern society. Individual commitment to a group effort, that is what makes a team work, a company work, a society work, a civilization work. And that's from Vince Lombardi. And that's how I want to work. I want to work together with my team there at my office, and also this team here to bring success to my clients and to win. Thank you.